Marcus Rivera stood at his usual post beside the school's main entrance, his weathered hands clasped behind his back in a stance that came as naturally as breathing. The afternoon dismissal bell had rung 3 minutes ago, and already the courtyard filled with the chaotic symphony of children's voices and sneakers against concrete. His trained eyes swept the scene with practiced precision, cataloging faces, noting which kids walked alone, which ones clustered in groups. 80-year-old Sophia appeared in the doorway, her dark curls bouncing as she spotted him. Her backpack, decorated with cartoon unicorns, seemed too large for her small frame. She waved enthusiastically, and Marcus felt the familiar warmth that always accompanied her presence. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you've seen similar protective fathers where you're from. Sophia skipped toward him, her gap-toothed smile brightening his day as it always did. She had her mother's eyes, those same warm brown depths that had once looked at him with such love. The resemblance sometimes caught him off guard, even 3 years after the accident. Today feels different, he thought, watching the children stream past. Something in the air carried tension he couldn't quite name, like the stillness before a storm. The memory hit Marcus like it always did, unexpected and sharp. 3 years ago, he had been Sergeant Rivera, leading reconnaissance missions in places most people couldn't pronounce. His hands had been steady on a rifle, his voice calm over radio chatter, his decisions meaning life or death for his team. Now those same hands adjusted Sophia's backpack straps and checked that she had her lunch money. The transition hadn't been easy. After Maria's funeral, when the grief felt like drowning, he had made the hardest decision of his military career. Early retirement. Sophia needed stability, needed her father present, not deployed halfway around the world wondering if she was eating her vegetables or having nightmares about the accident. Principal Harrison approached with his usual expression of barely concealed irritation. The man had never hidden his opinion that Marcus was overqualified for a security position, as if competence were somehow suspicious. Harrison cleared his throat with theatrical importance. You know, Rivera, we hired you to watch doors, not analyze every child's behavior like some kind of tactical assessment, Harrison said, his tone carrying the weight of someone who believed his authority when unquestioned. Marcus maintained his composure, a skill honed through years of dealing with difficult commanding officers. Just doing my job, sir, he replied quietly, his voice carrying none of the edge he felt. Sophia tugged at his sleeve, ready to head home, blissfully unaware of the tension between the adults. 15 miles across town, Victoria Chun stared at the financial projections on her monitor, the numbers blurring together after 12 straight hours of meetings. Her corner office on the 40th floor offered a commanding view of the city, but she rarely had time to appreciate it. Chun Technologies had grown from a 2-person startup in her garage to a multinational corporation, and every decision still crossed her desk. Her assistant knocked softly. Mrs. Chun, Emma's school called. She missed pickup again. They're keeping her in the office until you arrive. Victoria's chest tightened with familiar guilt. This was the 3rd time this month. Emma had stopped complaining about the late pickups, which somehow made it worse. A 10-year-old shouldn't be that understanding about her mother's absence. The drive to Emma's school took 40 minutes in traffic, giving Victoria too much time to think. When she finally arrived, Emma sat alone in the principal's office, her small frame dwarfed by the adult-sized chair. Her daughter's face lit up briefly before settling back into careful composure. "How was your day, sweetheart?" Victoria asked, gathering Emma's backpack and art projects scattered across the secretary's desk. Emma shrugged, the gesture carrying weight beyond her years. "It was okay, Mom. Just the usual stuff. Nothing special happened." But Victoria caught something in her daughter's voice, a hesitation that spoke of unspoken troubles. The same instinct that had built her business empire told her Emma was hiding something important. Marcus had developed a mental map of the school's social dynamics over his 6 months on the job. He knew which kids gravitated toward trouble, which ones needed extra watching, and which ones moved through the halls like ghosts, hoping not to be noticed. Emma Chun fell into that last category. During morning duty, he observed her carefully navigating the hallways, always choosing routes that avoided certain areas. She kept her head down, clutched her books tightly, and never lingered by her locker longer than necessary. The behavior reminded him of soldiers in hostile territory, constantly assessing threats and escape routes. 3 particular students had caught his attention. Tyler Matthews, a 6th grader whose growth spurt made him tower over most kids his age. Ashley Burke, whose sweet smile masked a cruel streak that teachers rarely witnessed. And Connor Walsh, who followed the other 2 like a loyal lieutenant, eager to prove himself through meanness. Marcus watched them corner Emma near the water fountain during lunch recess. From his position across the courtyard, he couldn't hear their words, but body language spoke volumes. Emma pressed herself against the brick wall, trapped between the fountain and the trio surrounding her. Tyler leaned close, his size advantage clear. Ashley crossed her arms, wearing the deceptive smile. Connor blocked the only escape route. Emma's shoulders hunched inward, her backpack pulled tight against her chest like armor. Marcus's jaw tightened. His military training had taught him to recognize predator-prey dynamics, and this scene fit the pattern perfectly. Jake's hands trembled slightly as he opened his locker the next morning, finding the folded paper tucked between his textbooks. His eyes widened as he read the anonymous note, the mathematical concepts explained in a way that finally made sense to him. During calculus class, Jake found himself raising his hand for the first time in weeks. "Is the derivative like measuring how fast something changes?" he asked tentatively. Mrs. Peterson's eyebrows lifted in surprise. "Exactly, Jake. That's a perfect way to think about it." For the next 3 days, mysterious study guides appeared in his locker like gifts from an educational fairy godmother. Each note built upon the last, transforming incomprehensible equations into logical progressions he could actually follow. Jake's quiz score improved from a failing 38 to a respectable 72. He stared at the paper in disbelief, then glanced around the classroom wondering who his anonymous benefactor could be. "Significant improvement, Mr. Morrison," Mrs. Peterson noted with genuine approval. "Whatever you're doing differently, keep it up." That evening, Jake mentioned the mysterious help to his mother during dinner. Sarah nodded approvingly, assuming the expensive MIT tutor was finally earning his substantial fee. "Mr. Henderson's methods are clearly working," she said with satisfaction. "Perhaps we judged too harshly." Jake didn't correct her assumption, though he knew the truth was far more mysterious. The writing style of his anonymous helper was different from any tutor he had ever worked with, more intuitive and encouraging than academic and rigid. Late that night, he returned to school for forgotten homework, hoping to catch a glimpse of his mysterious mentor in action. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, its official academy letterhead making Sarah Morrison's coffee cup tremble in her hands. Jake watched his mother's face pale as she read the Academic Review Committee's preliminary findings. "Academic probation," she whispered, the words falling like stones into their breakfast silence. "Despite your recent improvements, your cumulative GPA still falls below academy standards." Jake's stomach dropped. Weeks of progress with Marcus suddenly felt meaningless against months of previous failures. The committee had scheduled a final hearing for Friday, where they would decide whether he could remain at Riverside Academy or face immediate expulsion. "This is impossible," Sarah said, pacing the kitchen with increasing agitation. "Mr. Henderson assured me your understanding had dramatically improved. Your recent test scores prove that." "Mom, maybe I should tell them about no excuses, Jake. Results matter, not explanations." She grabbed her phone, dialing the expensive tutor. "Henderson better have a solution, considering what we're paying him." That evening, Jake found Marcus in their usual classroom, but the weight of impending expulsion made concentrating impossible. When he explained the situation, Marcus set down his marker and leaned against the desk. "I'm sorry, Jake. I should have started helping sooner. It's not your fault. You've done more for me than anyone." Jake's voice cracked with emotion. "I just don't know how to explain to the committee that the janitor taught me more than Harvard graduates." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, staring at equations that suddenly seemed inadequate against institutional bureaucracy. "Perhaps it's time for the truth." The suggestion hung between them like a bridge Jake wasn't sure he was brave enough to cross. 3 months later, Marcus Chun stood before a classroom of eager students, no longer hidden behind a janitor's cart, but respected as Professor Chun, the Academy's newest faculty member. Jake sat in the front row, his transformation from failing student to mathematical enthusiast complete. Sarah Morrison had not only reversed Jake's academic probation, but personally recruited Marcus to join the Academy's mathematics department. She offered him a position that accommodated his need for flexibility while honoring his extraordinary teaching abilities. Remember, Marcus told his students, mathematics isn't about memorizing formulas. It's about understanding the language that describes how our world works. Emma beamed with pride from her seat, finally able to publicly celebrate her father's gifts. The other students, including several who had previously struggled, responded to Marcus's innovative teaching methods with enthusiasm that transformed the entire department. After class, Jake approached his former secret mentor with a calculus problem. "I think I understand this one, but could you check my work?" Marcus reviewed the solution with approval. "Perfect. You've learned to see the patterns beneath the numbers." Dr. Williams stopped by the classroom, still adjusting to the remarkable turn of events. "Professor Chun, the school board wants to discuss expanding your teaching methodology across all our STEM programs." As students filtered out, chattering excitedly about the day's lesson, Marcus reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought him from invisible janitor to celebrated educator. Sometimes the greatest gifts come in humble packages, waiting for someone brave enough to look beyond surface appearances. If this story touched your heart, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite part, character, or if you've witnessed similar hidden talents in someone you know. Marcus walked Emma to the edge of the park, learning that she lived in the upscale Riverside Heights development just 2 blocks away. The contrast between her expensive clothing and her vulnerable demeanor struck him as oddly familiar. He had seen it before in the children of high-ranking officers, kids who had everything except their parents' time and attention. When they reached the imposing iron gates of her neighborhood, Emma hesitated. "My mom works a lot," she explained quietly. "She won't be home until really late." Again, Marcus exchanged a meaningful glance with Sophia, who nodded with the wisdom of a child who understood adult responsibilities. "We'll wait until you're safely inside," he assured Emma. 20 minutes later, Victoria Chin's black sedan pulled into the driveway of a sprawling modern home. Emma ran to the car, and for the first time that day, Marcus saw her face light up with genuine joy. Victoria emerged looking exhausted, but managing a smile for her daughter. From his position across the street, Marcus watched their reunion. Victoria knelt to Emma's level, clearly asking about her day. Emma's animated response seemed different than usual, more engaged, less guarded. She pointed back toward the park, gesturing excitedly about something. Victoria's head turned in their direction, her executive instincts sharp even from a distance. Marcus felt her gaze settle on him and Sophia, assessing and calculating. He offered a polite nod, gathered Sophia's hand, and turned to head home. Behind them, he heard Emma's voice carrying across the evening air, saying something about a soldier who helped her. Victoria couldn't stop thinking about Emma's story over dinner. Her daughter had been more talkative than she had been in months, describing how a soldier and his little girl had helped her when some kids were being mean. Emma's eyes had sparkled when she talked about Sophia sharing her fruit snacks, and she mentioned feeling safe for the first time in weeks. That night, after Emma went to bed, Victoria called the school's main office. She needed to know more about this mysterious soldier who had apparently rescued her daughter. The security footage from the park wasn't available, but the school had cameras in the courtyard. The next morning, Victoria made an unscheduled visit to Emma's school, using her influence as a major donor to gain access to the security recordings. Principal Harrison seemed nervous about the request, muttering something about privacy policies, but Victoria's determination was legendary in boardrooms for good reason. The footage showed everything. Marcus Rivera moving with calculated precision toward the confrontation. The immediate change in the bully's behavior when they saw him approaching. His careful assessment of Emma's condition. The gentle way he knelt beside her, checking for injuries with what looked like professional medical training. Most striking was his command presence. This wasn't just a concerned adult intervening in a playground dispute. This was someone with serious training, someone who understood conflict and knew exactly how to de-escalate it. Victoria found herself rewinding the footage multiple times, studying his movements, his posture, the way he positioned himself protectively between Emma and potential threats. Who exactly was Marcus Rivera, and why was he working as a school security guard? Victoria's research skills, honed through years of due diligence on business acquisitions, proved invaluable in uncovering Marcus Rivera's background. What she discovered left her stunned. Sergeant Marcus Rivera, Army Special Forces, 3 tours of duty, decorated combat medic, early retirement after family tragedy. This wasn't just a security guard. This was a war hero. The next afternoon, Victoria arrived at Emma's school 30 minutes before dismissal. She found Marcus at his usual post, observing the courtyard with that same tactical awareness she had noticed in the security footage. Emma spotted her mother immediately and ran over with excitement. "Mom, this is Mr. Rivera, the soldier I told you about," Emma said, practically bouncing with enthusiasm. "And that's Sophia," she added, pointing to the dark-haired girl approaching them. Victoria extended her hand, studying Marcus's face as they shook hands. His grip was firm but respectful, his eyes alert but kind. "Mr. Rivera, I wanted to thank you personally for what you did for Emma yesterday." Marcus deflected the praise with practiced humility. "Just doing what anyone would do, ma'am. Emma's a good kid. She shouldn't have to deal with that kind of treatment." Victoria noticed how he positioned himself unconsciously between her and the flow of children, how his eyes continued scanning the area even during conversation. Principal Harrison approached, his expression tightening when he saw Victoria speaking with Marcus. "Mrs. Chun, I hope Rivera here hasn't been bothering you with his overzealous behavior," Harrison said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Sometimes he forgets his place as just security personnel." Victoria's expression shifted instantly, her boardroom instincts engaging with lethal precision. The temperature around them seemed to drop several degrees as she turned to face Principal Harrison with the same intensity that had intimidated countless competitors. "Just security personnel," she repeated slowly, her voice carrying the quiet danger that her business rivals had learned to fear. "Mr. Harrison, are you aware that this man is a decorated Army Special Forces veteran who served 3 combat tours protecting our country?" Harrison's confident smirk faltered as Victoria continued. "He's a trained combat medic who saved lives under enemy fire, earned multiple commendations for valor, and chose early retirement to raise his daughter as a single father. And you think he's overqualified for keeping children safe?" Marcus remained perfectly still, his military training keeping his expression neutral despite the uncomfortable attention. Sophia moved closer to him, sensing the tension between the adults. "Yesterday, while you were sitting in your office, Sergeant Rivera prevented my daughter from being seriously bullied by 3 older students. He assessed the situation, intervened with appropriate force, provided medical evaluation, and ensured her safety. That's not overstepping. That's exactly what we should want from someone protecting our children." Harrison's face flushed red as other parents began to gather, drawn by Victoria's raised voice. "Mrs. Chun, I think you're making too much of a simple playground incident." Victoria stepped closer, her 5'4" frame somehow making the much taller principal take a step backward. "A simple incident that your staff failed to prevent or address. Perhaps we need to discuss your oversight of student safety at the next school board meeting." 2 weeks later, Marcus sat in Victoria's corner office, still processing the offer she had made. Head of corporate security for Chun Technologies meant a salary that would change everything for Sophia. Health insurance, college savings, a future he had only dreamed about during those long nights wondering how to provide better opportunities. "Your military experience and protective instincts are exactly what we need," Victoria explained. "Someone who understands real threats, who can assess situations and respond appropriately. Someone who puts people's safety above politics or appearances." Marcus looked out at the city skyline, thinking about Sophia waiting for him at after-school care. The little girl who had sacrificed so much when he left the army, who deserved stability and security. Mr. Chun, I appreciate the offer more than you know. But I need to know this isn't charity. Victoria smiled, the same expression that had closed million-dollar deals. Sergeant Rivera, I didn't build this company through charity. I built it by recognizing talent and surrounding myself with people I trust. You protected my daughter when no one else would. You did it without hesitation, without recognition, without reward. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. If this story of hidden courage touched your heart, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite part. Or if you've witnessed similar protective instincts in someone you know. Marcus shook her hand, accepting the position that would transform his family's future. Outside, Sophia and Emma played in the company's daycare center, their laughter echoing through the halls. Sometimes the greatest victories came not from battles won, but from simply doing what was right.